Good evening and welcome to the May 8th Penfield Planning Board public hearing. We'll begin the hearing with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, can we get a roll call?
Certainly. Burton?
Burton, here.
Aken?
Aken here.
Kanauer?
Kanauer here.
Tydings?
Tydings here.
Sangster?
Sangster here.
Weissar?
Weissar here.
O'Connor?
O'Connor here.
Prinzing?
Prinzing here.
Ferrigno here.
Okay. Everybody on the board get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from February 27th.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Tydings.
I'll second.
Burton?
Burton, aye.
Aken?
Aken, aye.
Kanauer?
Kanauer, aye.
Tydings?
Tydings, aye.
Okay, Doug, you want to read the sketch plan application into the record?
Do you want to start with the table of the new business or move directly into the sketch plan hearing?
Yeah, no, let's go right in. That's, the tabled application is only going to take a minute. There's nobody here that's...
No, I don't believe there's anyone here for the table or the new business item. Okay, so we'll move right into the sketch plan review. BME Associates, 10 Lift Bridge Lane East, Fairport, New York, 14450, on behalf of Penfield NY Partners LLC, requests an informal discussion before the board for proposed mixed-use development at 1801 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. The proposed sketch plan includes the repurposing of an existing approximately 4,300 square foot single-story commercial building and the construction of an approximately 7,500 square foot single-story commercial building addition, as well as 7 residential for-sale townhouse units and 16,800 square feet of open space area to be located on a 5-acre property. The property is now or formerly owned by Penfield NY Partners LLC and zoned mixed-use development, MUD, application 25P-0004, SBL 125.01-1-33.11.
Mr. Zars, you may proceed.
Okay, just making sure this is on. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Peter Vars with BME Associates, appearing tonight on behalf of Penfield NY Partners LLC, who is the owner of the property and the applicant for this sketch plan review. Here with me this evening from Penfield NY Partners is Matt Lester and Anthony Gizzi, who are the principals of that group. As mentioned, we are here this evening for a sketch plan review of a proposed mixed-use development to be located at 1801 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. The property is a 5-acre parcel located within the town's mixed-use zoning district, and it is in the Zone A core mixed-use area. The project is actually a redevelopment of the former Grossman's Nursery property, which went dormant just over 10 years or so ago. The property is located on the west side of New York State Route 250, approximately 120 feet south of the Sweets Corners Road intersection. The property is bounded to the south by the Penfield Square mixed-use development, to the west and the north by the lands of the Wickham family, and it occupies about 430 feet of frontage as its east boundary along New York State Route 250. As mentioned, the plan is a proposed mixed-use development consisting of approximately 12,000 square feet of commercial space and 16,200 square feet of residential space. So it's a 40%, 60% commercial residential distribution of space. The residential use, located at the west end of the property, is currently proposed to be 7 townhouse-style units, which could change based on the market once the final site plan application is made. But what's important here is basically what we're doing is allocating about 1 acre of the 5-acre site towards the residential use. And in the Core A district, that could accommodate accommodate up to 20 units at a 20-unit per acre allowable density, but we don't anticipate that. Like I said, we're looking at something in a smaller scale from a residential component. The commercial component, which is really going to be the focal point of this redevelopment of this 5-acre parcel, is going to be in the location of where the current greenhouse development footprint is. We would be demoing the existing greenhouses are there, but we'd repurpose the existing 4,500 square foot structure that has the cupola on it. It's got the metal roof and whatnot. It is the intent to reuse that building and then combine it with an approximate 7,500 square foot addition. So there'd be 12,000, at this time we're proposing 12,000 square feet of commercial space that would be a single-story structure. The purpose of the commercial space, it would be a multi-tenant building with final footprint, size, architecture defined with the final site plan application. Because once Penfield NY Partners understands that they have a project, that's when they'll in earnest begin soliciting tenants and start fitting that to the proposed building. Another key component of this that's illustrated on the rendering is the commercial space is to be supported by about 4/10 of an acre or 16,800 square feet of outdoor space, which is that central green area. We see this as being a combination of patio space and gathering space that would be available to support the commercial tenants, i.e. if it's a restaurant type use, it could be outdoor seating. If it's some form of a recreation use that goes into the building, it gives them outdoor space to use. But its design will also be integrated with the tenant space, but also the overall site layout and pedestrian circulation. The sketch plan layout we've prepared is prepared to transition east to west. And what I mean by that, it's locating the commercial area at the east end of the property adjacent to and along Route 250. Partly is to provide visibility to the commercial uses to the Route 250 corridor, which is important to those tenants for visibility and success. But it also then creates a buffer from the highway itself to the proposed residential use that we are locating at the west end of the property. That residential use area would be offset approximately 400 feet from the highway. The residential layout, as we're showing it, what our intent is that the garage and driveway access to those units would be on the east end of the buildings, basically creating a buffer to the commercial use between the residential use. And our idea is that those residential uses would front to the west, which would allow them to front eventually if and when the pedestrian spine from Penfield Square is extended northward, because where that spine is allocated, it is off-site, so to speak, of the frontage of the subject property here. But if it were to be extended, those units would front on that, because that would be the goal, is to give a front door residential approach to the pedestrian spine. We did discuss this briefly with PRC last week, and we would provide an easement along the west property line to make sure that there could be access to and from a pedestrian spine between this parcel. As it relates to access, we would use the existing driveway curb cut onto Route 250. The interior road proposed along the north property line would serve several purposes, both currently and in the future. It would continue to serve as the driveway access to the Wickham House, which is located west of our property. They currently have an easement over that driveway that allows them access through this tax parcel to their home, and that will continue to be honored and remain in place. The road would then also serve the residential segment of this property at the west end. It would have its own driveway off that roadway to serve the residential use. And then it obviously would provide access to the commercial core of this property. We've located this road along the north property line with the intent that when and if property is developed north of this parcel, it's been the goal of the district that a four-way intersection could and should be created at the Sweets Corners Road intersection. And so we've located our interior road along the north property line such that it could facilitate a future connection to a complete street if and when it were to be extended from Route 250 at Sweets Corners Road. We acknowledge any final site plan application that we would submit would include consultation with the New York State DOT regarding access onto 250 utilizing the existing curb cut, but also providing traffic count data, trip generations, everything that would be required under the SEQR process. And the applicant is aware that if and when there were to be a connection to the roadway that would be created with Sweets Corners Road, that their curb cut would likely be closed off to Route 250. But as of now, it is the only access they have to the state highway system. The sketch plan does propose parking to support the commercial use and tenants. The parking will be critical to the success of the commercial tenants, as there really is no other alternatives. If they can't park at this site, if customers can't park here, there is no other alternatives for them to park. They can't park along 250 or anything like that. So what we did here, and while this parking right now shows 204 spaces. When you take the combination of the 12,000 square foot commercial space and you look at the 16,000 plus square feet of outdoor space, which could be extended tenant space, this proposes a parking ratio of around 7 spaces per 1,000 square feet. That is greater than the typical code requirement for commercial users. But what we're doing here is showing the ability to provide that parking. And the point being is parking will be sized based on tenant demand, and that would be addressed with the final site plan application. But what's important here to share with you at this sketch plan stage is that the owner applicant has really paid attention to right-sizing the building, working with a 5-acre parcel, such that you don't create too much, I'm going to say tenant space, that you can't have the parking to support it, such that the building, the tenants aren't able to succeed because of a parking deficit. So the purpose of this sketch plan is to illustrate of how in our opinion, we've right-sized the building for this 5-acre parcel at around 12,000 square feet. But even with this parking, this current plan provides 2.2 acres of green space. That's 44% of the 5-acre parcel. The building lot coverage is 4/10 of an acre. It's about 9%. The public green space or patio space represents about 4/10 of an acre also, so 8 to 9% of the total site area. The final site plan application that we would submit if we are allowed to proceed after this sketch plan review would provide greater detail as it relates to pedestrian mobility and circulation. This would include, there would be sidewalks extended along the Route 250 frontage to continue the sidewalks that are in place that were constructed with the YMCA and Penfield Square, continuing that trend and extension of that sidewalk system northward. Sidewalk connections would be provided from that sidewalk system along 250 into the interior of the property to provide direct access to the commercial core center of this development and ultimately even to the residential properties. There would be a perimeter sidewalk placed around our commercial core to frame the tenant space and the outdoor space. And we look at that as an area that would be greater than a standard 5-foot sidewalk. It would be a pedestrian area with landscaping and benches and whatnot to really, as we mentioned, to frame that area and integrate it within the open space that we see, or the outdoor space as proposed to support the tenant space. We would provide pedestrian aisles through the parking lot, and then there would be pedestrian access from the residential units, both allowing for pedestrian access to the west in the eventuality of the pedestrian spine being extended, but also pedestrian access from these units eastward towards the commercial core and ultimately out to the Route 255 sidewalk system. The property is able to be served by public water and public sewer, and we would provide on-site stormwater management as required by the town of Penfield's design and construction standards. This plan and project intends to comply with the mixed-use design principles of the Mixed-Use District's Design Manual. It proposes bringing in an appropriate scale commercial center to the district that a 5-acre parcel can yield. This is one of the, I think if it's not, I think it's one of the smallest parcels that the town has reviewed within this district. So it's being important to understand the scale of this style of the development. It's proportioned between the residential and the commercial use so that it is economically viable for both of those uses. The applicant, the owner, has had previous success with this style of commercial development, this scale, this type of linear development of multi-tenant space that has an accentuating outdoor component to it throughout both in central New York and western New York. The proposed open space is a key component to this to support the commercial tenants while also providing a public gathering space. The project is proposed to basically take a current distressed 5-acre parcel along the Route 250 corridor within the heart of the mixed-use district and establish a commercial center within the district at the Sweets Corners Road intersection. So we look forward to the Plan Board's feedback this evening, and because I can tell you the owner applicant, they are anxious to move forward. As we mentioned, they own the property, and they are anxious to move this forward. Okay.
So I was going to start out by asking you about the parking, but you threw me a little bit with the multiple tenants.
Mm-hmm.
So, at some point before we start, veering towards a more viable plan, I think we need to take a look at a parking analysis that envisions how many tenants and what those uses and densities are so that we can plug in, the parking requirements and see whether or not we've got too much, and maybe it makes sense to land bank some parking. Right now, there looks like there's some opportunities for snow storage, but maybe it would make sense to take maybe some of that parking in the back corner that's adjacent to the stormwater structure and make that the access point for snow storage, because obviously you can't take a loader or a plow and push snow through parked vehicles. So I just wanted to get that out. Because there are multiple tenants here, the question about trash enclosure and how the trash and recycling management is going to take place and where that's located, what that looks like on the site is important. Hours of operation are going to come into play, particularly you're talking about the possibility of bars, restaurants, those kinds of places of public assembly. So, you've got 7 residential units in the back. And while we're there, let's talk about a couple other things with respect to the residential units. Love the way that the parking rings around there, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about how we're going to provide some visual buffer from headlights. So if you're envisioning that the front of the townhouse units is actually going to face the west and the Main Street spine at some point in the future, that's great. That would typically mean that there would be bedrooms in the back. So that's one thing we need to address. We're also going to need to address noise barriers. So the hours of operation and the types of uses that you're able to successfully get in this development, I'm going to have an impact on, the noise that carries into the residential units. And hoping that we can hear from one of the developer principals here to talk just a little bit about what they're envisioning for the townhouse units. I'm assuming they've said for sale, so I'm assuming market rate. I'd like to hear about what kind of price range they're talking about. So one of the things as I look through the circulation here, so people pull into the existing curb cut, and they can turn immediately south and access some of the parking there. They can turn slightly south and then head west towards some other parking, or they can go down this access lane that's at the northern part of the pavement. I think you should consider some type of traffic calming structure, maybe a raised crossing with some signage so that in inclement weather or dark, people that are seeking to patronize some of these businesses don't wander into the residential areas. We could have kids back there playing and what have you. So those are the things that jumped out to me. You have anything that you'd like to ask, Bob?
Sure.
The applicant?
First of all, I'm happy to see that you're utilizing that existing building on the site. And if you could describe, I didn't quite understand the easement for the future pedestrian corridor, where that would be?
Yeah, so as mentioned, that was a request that came up at the PRC meeting, just to, I think we would want to work that out with PRC, because I believe what it is to ensure that there would be public access. If you're on the pedestrian spine, you can get from the pedestrian spine through the residential area to the commercial core.
Okay, to this parcel?
Yes, exactly, so you're not blocked off from it.
Okay,
Yep.
what confused me is it doesn't line up, but there would still be some access.
Correct, and I think one of the discussions were, as we refine this design, is, for lack of a better way to put it initially, is where is the right location, maybe south of the units by the stormwater facility, or does it go north of the units? But the key is to make sure that we've provided the ability, if you're on that pedestrian spine, you can go eastward to the commercial area. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and for the stormwater, I would assume that's a retention area?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
It would be the current design requirements of the DEC for the stormwater ponds, yep.
Okay, and I do like Jim's comment about some sort of traffic control going into that last driveway that goes to the residential area. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I just got one question, Peter. So behind the townhouses there where the roadway may go back there sometime, will they have buffering back there eventually? Or is that just going to be like a road if you guys end up putting one in?
I'm sorry, what area is that?
Right behind the townhouses there, right there where the hand is there.
Yeah, we would well, to the north, we would definitely provide buffering. I think to the west, I'm not quite sure what we'd propose, because again, if that's intended to be the front of the units, I think it'd be landscaping commensurate with that, because of kind of keeping the units open to the spine.
Okay, something to consider though, because you might need it. I mean, if they're living there and that's going to be their front entrance.
Yep.
Right? They might want some buffering. I mean,
Sure.
it might help in the sales
Okay.
of that property too. And also, so the only way to get into the townhouses right now is the same roadway that's going to go into the commercial area right now, right? Is that going to stay that way, or maybe down the road when you guys develop anything further north, right? Would that change? Would there be another?
You know, what we show there, I mean, obviously, roughly conceptually, is what we would envision is that the driveway that serves the residential area would extend due north and hit the complete street, and then there'd be a separate one to go to the commercial. So it would get a greater separation between there, yes.
Yeah, just keep that in mind, because I'm sure they'll think about that too, because they're not going to want to drive in from 250 all the time and past the commercial area and to get to their townhouses too. So keep in mind down the road there, I guess. And I think that's it for me right now. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, so I do like the idea of the something going in that area and repurposing the building. It's really hard to ask any questions when we don't know what's going in there. So, you know, if you're having just a retail space that has specific store hours of 10 to 5, then having these townhouses there makes sense. But if it's, you know, restaurants and bars and everything else where it's late hours and a lot of noise and, you know, lights, as Jim was mentioning, then it gets into a different issue. So it's hard to imagine what it's going to be without knowing what's specifically going in there. But you had mentioned the developers had successes elsewhere. So what was that? What's that like?
Sure.
What were the successes?
So I can share intent. Maybe that's the best word
Sure.
to use at this stage. I mean, it is the intent that there would be restaurant uses there, okay? And actually, that's why we believe the horizontal mixed-use approach is the better approach than a vertical mixed use where you know, we'd have the residential units over the commercial space, because then there's really is no getting away from it. Here, what we have is the ability, and we purposely provided the green space between the commercial area and the residential to get a visual buffer in there, but which would then act as noise and sound, obviously construction. The good part, in a way, that's why we've kind of took that open space, public, and have the building between that and the residential units. But we completely understand the need. Obviously, hours of operation are going to be important because of the residential use, and the owner-operator understands that too, because of you've got to lease the space, but you've also got to be able to sell the residential spaces. So he's got the vested interest that it has to work also. So the point is, the comments received are very good, and you know, and we understand we do need to address those. And as I said, the owner, and I know Matt would jump up here if I misspeak, but that is his intent, is for it to be kind of a food service oriented area, and so that will be important. Is how do those uses coexist with the residential uses, and that even includes Penfield Square to the south.
Sure.
Right? You know, so we understand that needs to happen, and he has located businesses like this within residential areas, and there are ways how you orient the tenants within the building where you keep their activity centers and things. And one of the things that hasn't been brought up, like we will be addressing deliveries and where loading areas are and things like that for that exact reason also, along with trash and recycling. Okay?
Yeah. I look forward to hearing more about it.
One other comment I just wanted to make. If in fact restaurant, food service that has a seasonal type of an outdoor service area, and that becomes, you know, a typical patio, then the green space actually shrinks to a degree. So
right.
Just want to, you know, talk about that a little bit.
Right. What we anticipate with the final site plan application is that number will be, for lack of a better term, will be honed in, because we'll start understanding what the outdoor space demands or desires of the tenants will be.
I think it's important to note that we very much appreciate that you have to have a viable project before you can really start attracting tenants. And, we certainly want everybody who's willing to invest in the town of Penfield to succeed to the extent that they can meet the regulations that are before us. So,
Right.
Absolutely, we would want this to succeed on both sides. And unless you have something else at this time, I'd love to hear a little bit about the residential units.
I think I'll speak to those, Matt. Are you okay? All right.
First person.
Just give your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Matt Lester. I live in 1242 Lake Road in Webster. To speak a little bit about what we're anticipating here is more of a brownstone themed design. So the front of, as Peter was saying, the front of the units eventually will hope to face the Spine Road, and the residents will walk out the western door onto a street. That's the hope, I think, of the master plan and the mixed-use
The complete
district.
streets, the main street that we envision for the
Correct.
mixed-use
So
district.
this
Pedestrian spine, though, right?
Yeah,
Not the-
it's pedestrian multi-use, so it's bikes and
pedestrian spine.
people.
Sorry, I don't. You guys, I'll defer to the terminology that you all would like to use, but the intent is to have garage doors facing the east. As you can see, the buffer are the tree line and the curbing between the commercial and residential use. So those residents would drive in across the east-west entry and then funnel south and then into their garage door going east. If they'd like to, hopefully the plan is this will create momentum and your mixed-use district will be developed. This, we hope, is a catalyst for the remaining, 100-some-odd acres to the north and the west. The Spine Road, we'd love that to be put in. That's what the intent is for the district, we recognize, and the residents could walk out their front door, and hopefully there'll be a sidewalk there one day, and they could, go for a long walk with their pets, and then occupy the commercial space to the east in a social setting. The great opportunity we have is that nothing's built yet. So any resident who would like to purchase a unit knows exactly what they're getting into before they make the decision to purchase the unit. So we wouldn't be detracting from any, residential opportunity that we haven't created yet. So that's the goal.
And what do you think the asking price is going to be?
If you could predict the cost of construction, I have a lot of opportunities for you. 2 years ago, $350. Today, maybe they're $550. Tomorrow, maybe they're $1 million. I have no idea what certain trade concerns are. Lumber, oil. Commodities are not my forte.
Have you done a demographic study to see what the market would bear for this kind of housing in the mixed-use development?
I think if you could just look at Zillow and see what's on the market and what's has been selling. Per square foot, you're looking at $250 typically for a average / somewhat custom home. The empty nesters, the folks that are looking to downsize from larger 3-4 bedroom homes. I envision these to be 2-bedroom units, anywhere from $350 to $750. That's what you're going to typically find.
And you're thinking like a typical ranch units on the end and
No.
two-story in the middle? Or are they all going to be
You're looking at
two-story?
two-story.
All going to be two-story?
Two-story. So garages and first floor, living space, and then, or we could go ranches. We have the opportunity to do either or, but I think there's flexibility there depending on the purchaser's desire. It's certainly not intended to be patio homes. We're looking at brownstone type, opportunities, but I don't really want to pigeon ourselves into anything. I don't know what the market shifts will be. If there's an element of empty nesters that would like ranches because they don't want to utilize stairs as they get, later in life, we want to accommodate the market demand. It's a tough answer. It's a tough question to answer. if we were only going to do one type of unit and the market didn't respond, then we'd be sitting on it, and that's not the goal. The goal is to develop it. So there's only 7 units. I think there's probably enough demand in the community right now to fill these units if we have approval and there's some momentum and an attraction to locate here.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter?
Or buy a home.
Care to come up to the table, sir? State your name and address for the record, please.
5 minutes to speak, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, you should know that there's a 5-minute limit.
Thank you.
For everybody that wishes to speak. Thank you.
First, I want to say, I'm sorry, my name is Anthony Perone. I live at 1935 Dublin Road. It's a recent purchase, so I'm unfortunately not in the market for brownstone. But I do want to say, I think this is a really interesting project. I like the idea of seeing sort of a different style of purchasable home going in. Right now, if you want to buy a house in Penfield, everything is single-family residential, suburban yard, and there's not really any options for someone that doesn't want to maintain a huge property or anything like that. I like the reuse of an existing building, and I would welcome anything that creates opportunities for like local restaurants or cafes to open, provide space for that. I think there's maybe more that could be done with this to fit the bill of mixed use, but nothing that I imagine radically changes the numbers or the fundamentals of this. One thing that jumps out at me is the parking lot along the east side of the property, along Route 250. Seems to me like a missed opportunity to create some really attractive frontage on Route 250, which right now is just like farms or suburban strip malls. And I've seen developments in other cities where you've got the commercial piece up against the main road, creating a very nice frontage and pedestrian access to storefronts and things like that. And then there's parking and green space and other things behind that. That could also create the opportunity, if a building were located there, to place a restaurant just a little bit further from the residential units to sort of create more space there, and even turn that open space in the middle into something more like a courtyard rather than like a backyard. Right now it's sort of one corner, it's open on a couple of sides, and potentially surrounded by parking, right? I know you mentioned that it's not necessarily all going to be parking right away, but I think there's maybe something more interesting that can be done with that. That eastern side could also just be more open space to create pedestrian access between the new sidewalk on Route 250 and the rest of the property. I think there's a huge opportunity here to kind of create a nice community space that really draws people in rather than something that might look a little more like a traditional suburban strip mall. To that end, also, something that came to mind, there were a lot of concerns about the proximity of the residential uses and the commercial uses. And I think there might be value in thinking, turning that on its head and thinking of this more from the standpoint of like a village than from the standpoint of our traditional suburban segmentation. Allusions were made to similar properties done by the developer. I know like the cannery in Fairport comes to mind a lot when we talk about mixed use in the east side suburbs. And that just makes me think about the entire village of Fairport, right? Mixed use is the opportunity to create village-like atmospheres. I know Penfield has a village, right? But more's good. More village is nice. And you think about the sort of buyers that might be interested in a brownstone-like development. And I was really encouraged to hear that word brownstone, just because it sounds nice. It evokes something a little bit different than, like, I think patio homes was the alternative term that was used. Something with like a lot of architectural character and a lot of, just nice appearance. You might want that a little closer to some of the commercial uses to create that sort of village-like atmosphere. My first take on seeing the layout was it's almost a shame to put the residential part so far from the commercial part. You could have almost a complete street running north-south between the two with on-street parking to accommodate visitors to the owners. So I'm kind of rambling here because I didn't, in my usual way, prepare something in advance, but I just want to say I like the uses that are being explored here. I like the different residential option. Oh, the other thing I wanted to bring up was the stormwater concern. I know in Penfield we have a lot of like retainment ponds, and that's something of a maintenance concern and also a safety concern for young children, things like that. I would be really interested as this moves into sketch plan, or site plan reviews, to see some other stormwater abatement options explored, artificial wetlands, or just maybe more permeable space. You brought up the fact that a patio would be impermeable space that would detract from that sort of usage, but there are options for rigid permeable surfaces that could maybe stand up to pedestrian use better than vehicle use, and so that space is maybe an option to use a permeable rigid surface, just to help with the numbers there. I'm out of time. It's cool. I think there's a lot you could do with it. I'd be interested to see how it develops. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I just want to mention, if you haven't done this already, take the time to familiarize yourself with the mixed-use development manual, because there really was, in the 10-plus years that it took the town and the community at large, really, to develop the mixed-use zones, and a tremendous amount of thinking went into this. Very much the theme was around creating these pocket villages. So,
yeah,
your ideas were well-intentioned for the...
I can't take credit. I've read through the manual, and that's where I'm getting a lot of this from.
Yeah. So
I think there's a lot of potential here to fit that bill perfectly.
Yeah. The other thing you should know is that the developer of the cannery is the developer of this proposed project.
I was aware of that as well.
So.
Thank you. Yeah, it's... a lot of people look at the cannery enviously.
Coolest place in Rochester, 2020.
So I'm getting a little long in the tooth, right? But I have coworkers in their 20s, and they talk about, oh, yeah, we don't go party downtown anymore. We go to Fairport.
Could come to Penfield.
Well, we would like
Yeah.
we would like to see those kind of successes in Penfield very much. Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Just to overstep my time even further, I live on Dublin Road, which abuts Sweets Corners. I would love to be able to walk to a cafe from my house, and if someone happened to open one in this parcel, that would be, of course, sidewalks on Sweet Corners would be nice too, but...
Someday maybe you will.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this matter? Please. Your name and address, please.
Florence Jessup, 2896 Atlantic Avenue. At one time in my life, I lived in Hillsboro, Oregon, which is the home of Orenco Station. Orenco Station is one of the best-known mixed-use developments in the United States. It's laid out in textbooks on mixed-use development and stuff. And I had the opportunity, I did a lot of business in that development, and so was there a lot. So I've had a lot of exposure to MUDs. I like this project. I'd like to see this kind of commercial use. I would actually encourage greater density by doing something like the new part of the building, putting another story on it and putting offices in there so that you have customers for your restaurants and retail space on the first floor. I think that the project would need something additional like that in order to justify this much parking, because the intent of a MUD is that people are moving throughout the neighborhood on foot or on bicycle. And when you start having this much parking, that discourages pedestrians and cyclists, because parking lots do not feel safe. And so that would be my encouragement, to work on improving pedestrian and bicycle transit within the system, having, serving the people that live and play and work right nearby. Otherwise, I think it's a great project. I'd like to see it move forward.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience? Do we have any requests filled out? Nope. And I don't have anybody online, so any final thoughts, Peter?
None. We'll look forward to receiving your letter.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation.
Great, thank you for your time.
All right, you want to move into tabled applications? Okay, so we have one tabled application, the Chick-Fil-A at 2051 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. Since the planning board last met, the applicant requested a determination from the authorized official regarding the use within the LB district in the 254-41 overlay. Carrie Ivers, the Director of Developmental Services, wrote a determination. It has been provided for you in your information. At this time, lawyers representing Preserve Penfield have filed an appeal. I don't know if it's been determined as complete yet. I have not heard from the zoning administrator on that. If it is, that'll likely be on the June 17th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The applicant hasn't submitted any new information for the board, so no actions necessary at this time.
Okay. We don't need to continue tabling. We can.
They, in their previous request to table, they requested that the board just keep it tabled until they're resubmit new information for the board's review.
It's really going to be no action.
Yeah, so it's just no, it would be a no action on our agenda.
Okay.
Then we have one new business item. We did have an application come in. We initially had docketed it for May at 1234 and 1250 Northrup Road. It is going to be a ground-mounted photovoltaic solar array. We have held it off the agenda, but wanted to keep at least a portion of SEQR moving forward. It will be a type 1 action. Ultimately, we left it off of the agenda because they're navigating the DEC's new jurisdictional determination letter process. They have not heard back from the DEC yet, so we chose to keep them off the agenda for now. But we did want to start the SEQR process. We have determined, staff has determined, it'll be a type 1 action pursuant to SEQR, just based on the size of the development. The physical alteration of greater than 10 acres is a trigger for type 1. They meet the 25% threshold for that because of their location adjacent to 4 Mile Creek Preserve and location within the Eastern Agricultural District 6. So what we're looking for the board tonight is for the board by simple vote to declare its intent to serve as lead agency and to direct staff to send lead agency letters out to other involved and interested agencies to start that 30-day window. That way, at the public hearing on June 12th, hopefully they'll have heard back from the DEC and the board can move ahead with lead agency status, assuming all other involved agencies concur.
So tell me a little bit more about the jurisdictional letter. I understand that that's taking a really long time.
I'm going to defer that to Mike, who went the whole thing on it.
Starting January 1st of this year, the DEC basically eliminated all their mapping. So basically, every project that might contain a wet spot, they needed to submit a simple online application to the DEC, and the DEC has 90 days to respond to that application to tell you whether you have wetlands or you don't have wetlands. So they have submitted their JD request because they know this parcel contains some wetlands, and the reason why we kind of held off on was then they need to get it delineated and it needs to be verified by the DEC. Well, if the DEC doesn't believe in their delineation, it could potentially alter their site plan. So therefore, we didn't want to review a potential changing site plan.
How long would it, so if you sent out a letter and you found out that there was potential for wetlands from the DEC, how long would that, or maybe you get a letter that says there aren't any wetlands, how long would that be good for?
Well, so it takes 90 days for them to potentially to respond to you. If you don't hear a response, you're supposed to send a letter requesting that you haven't gotten your letter.
So there's no benefit in the town submitting a request for all vacant parcels?
No. And now the DEC has come out and said, we're overloaded, please don't do this. So it's kind of like they've asked for it, and so now we're trying to battle through it. So, but again, since portions of their properties have wetlands.
So the applicant did their own delineation, but it's up to the DEC to
Right.
say whether they agree with it or not. And if they don't agree with it,
Well, it's
they
just
were
gonna make
they
it-
were building close up to where the existing buffer area
Right.
would be under the old
It's
DEC
gonna make every
regulation.
project, take,
Basically,
least three
every
Already-
project needs.
It's already making every project
Yeah.
slow down.
no, that's why it was like, is there some other way we could advance the ball in the future? So it sounds like, no, not really.
Well, so the DEC's also come out with new regulations saying that, all right, if you know you have wetlands, you hire a consultant to delineate the wetlands, it kind of supersedes the 90-day request letter. So,
But you still have to have them weigh in, don't you?
correct. And you can only delineate wetlands between April to November.
Yeah.
You have to have the growing season.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
No worries. Yeah, so the other thing we need from the board tonight is a simple vote to declare lead agency.
Okay. I'll propose a motion to designate planning board as lead agency for seeker review and to send notice to interested agencies for concurrence.
I second.
Burton,
Burton, aye.
Aken,
Aken, aye.
Kanauer,
Kanauer, aye.
Tydings.
Tydings, aye.
I would like to have an opportunity to prepare some notes to send to you so that you can prepare
A sketch letter for the
for this
1801 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road
applicant.
sketch
You guys are
plan.
in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And with that, we are adjourned.